Hi, this is just a quick video on diffusion, osmosis and active transport. So let me just split the board into 3 columns. So we'll do diffusion, osmosis and then active transport as well. We'll just go through the similarities and differences, and then I wanted to go through potato cells and osmosis with potato cells. So diffusion then, let's start here. So diffusion, the official definition is the movement of gas particles, keyword being gas, so movement of gas particles from a high concentration to a low concentration. And all that means is particles are going from an area where there's lots of these gas particles, and they're travelling to somewhere where there's not many. And particles tend to do this, so they always like to go from high to low. So that's diffusion. An example, we can just say perfume. So when you spray your perfume, you spray it in one area and someone can smell it eventually across the room. So osmosis is the second one. So osmosis is the movement of liquid particles from a high concentration to a low concentration. Across a partially permeable membrane. Really important that you say partially permeable membrane. You will not get the mark if you do not say partially permeable for the definition of osmosis. And all that means is there's gaps in the membrane. So there's one side of the membrane, there's the other. Let's say I've got lots and lots of different kind of particles in this one area. Only the small particles that can get through these gaps will pass through and get to the other side. So being partially permeable means you can control what goes in or what goes out, because only what fits will get through. So that's osmosis. And then the last one is active transport. So active transport is the movement of gas and liquid, so both particles from a low concentration to a high concentration. So it's the opposite, low to high, using energy, and energy is your key word here. You have to say energy. So if we're now going from a low concentration to a high concentration, particles naturally don't do that. They naturally go that way, from high to low. So in order to push these across from low to high, energy is required. Otherwise, there's no way of it getting through to the other side. So that's why we use energy. And when we're talking about this process in the body, it's usually respirational, even with plants. If we're talking about this process with humans or plants, the energy comes from respiration, and that's how the particles move. So you might have heard it being said as going against the concentration gradient. So against the concentration gradient basically means from low to high. With the concentration gradient, or along the concentration gradient, means from high to low. So let me just go through a couple of examples of active transport and osmosis. So starting with osmosis, the typical question that they like to talk to you about is potato cells. So they'll say, here's a beaker, here's a tube of potato, it's like a potato cylinder or something like that. what they'll say to you is, okay, this potato is sitting in a highly concentrated sugar solution. Remember, highly concentrated means there's lots of those particles. So if it's a highly concentrated sugar solution, that means all of these particles are sugar, not water, sugar. So it'll say to you, okay, the potato's left there for the whole day. What do you think is going to happen to the size of the potato or the mass of the potato? So what you have to think about in terms of osmosis is where is the high concentration of water and where is the low concentration. Because it's a highly concentrated sugar solution, that means there's less water outside because majority is sugar. So there's more water inside. So in terms of higher concentration of water, there's more water in the potato than there is outside. Therefore, via the definition of osmosis, liquid particles move from a high concentration to a low concentration. Water is going to move out of the potato into the sugar solution where there's less water, and the potato will decrease in mass, or it will, shrink, you could say, shrink, shrivel, decrease in mass. It could say this surrounding the potato is a highly concentrated salt solution. So now you've got majority of the solution being salt. So again, more water is in the potato than outside, therefore water will move out. Doesn't matter what this is. If it's not saying it's water or a high concentration of water, then that means the potato is going to have more water inside it. So let's do the opposite then. So here's my potato. Let's say I've got distilled water, high concentration of distilled water, pure water, around the outside of the potato. So high concentration of distilled water, distilled just means pure. Is the potato going to increase or decrease in size? Now you've got to think, is there more water on the outside or inside of the potato? Because there's a high concentration of distilled water, there's more water outside the potato. Therefore, water's going to move into the potato, and the potato is going to increase in mass. It's going to swell. So it's going to increase because more water is travelling in from a high concentration to a lower concentration. So it's just something to bear in mind, and you've really got to think, where is there more water, on the outside or the inside? It doesn't matter what they give you. They could give you any vegetable. They could give you carrots. They could say it's a turnip. It doesn't matter. You've just got to think about osmosis and water moving in or out. So active transport happens in things like root hair cells. So root hair cells are found on plants under the soil. They tend to look like something like this. So, if there's my plant, there's the soil, there's my roots, and then the roots have tiny hairs on them. That's basically what this is. It's a root hair cell. So it increases the surface area for absorption of mineral ions and water. So what tends to happen with root hair cells then? There tends to be more water and minerals inside the root hair cell than there is in the soil. However, plants still want to take up as much as they can. Even if, they've got a lot there already, they want to continually keep taking more and more up. So they do this via active transport. So using energy from respiration, water will move out of the soil from a low concentration to a high concentration inside the root hair cell. The other example, actually, if I do a human one, is in the villi. So in the small intestine where nutrients are absorbed, so if you remember villi look like that, that shape increases the surface area, so more nutrients can be absorbed into the blood. So if I just draw it out like this, let's say that's the villi wall, here's my blood on this side. So if I say there's already lots and lots of nutrients in my blood, but then I've just had some food and the body needs to take up the nutrients from the food I've had, the body will use active transport to transfer the nutrients, which are from a low concentration to a high concentration, into the blood using energy from respiration. So you can see, even though there's lots of nutrients in my blood already, the body isn't going to not take up any more. It's going to keep taking up as much as it can. Therefore, it will do this via the process of active transport, where it can push the nutrients across into the blood from a low concentration to a high concentration. So just be aware, as long as you know the definitions, you're able to then work out what's happening in the diagram.